So, today's session um, is appropriate to the climate. And I thought because it's a very warm summer and will continue to be for a while, that it would be good to have a practice or a number of practices that are more geared towards cooling. So we'll see how that goes in this session. And hopefully I've sequenced it well enough to make it interesting, but not overly energetic. I came across a really lovely quote, and it's on an Instagram um, account that belongs to old, what is it called? Old school movements. And it's a gentleman who looks to be in his 60s, probably more 70s. And he just does little tiny videos of him doing surprising movements. I think he likes to surprise himself. And so his quote goes like this: "When I'm curious about how I move, I let go of how I used to be able to move, how I was never able to move, and how I expect to be able to move one day. And then I can allow myself to be surprised." So we have one of his exercises in the practice this morning, and I've enjoyed doing it, even though I haven't succeeded and I may never succeed at it. So let's begin by going to our mats and take up a lying down position there on your back. Give yourself a moment to settle in so that you feel how well you're supported through the back of your body. And I'm going to keep my feet on the floor near to my buttocks. Let's start out by doing the series of movements called Apanasana, or I call them in and out movements. So bend your knees towards your chest and rest your hands onto the front of your knees. With an exhalation, draw your thighs closer to you. And in an inhalation, straighten your arms and draw the knees away. So we just do this gentle rocking movement, which is also a pumping movement for the lower abdomen and the digestive organs. And you can make it a little bit more interesting for yourself, possibly, by keeping the sitting bones moving towards the floor and adding a little resistance as you draw the thigh bones towards your ribs. So without a great deal of effort, just switching on the core muscles to a greater degree. So let's just do 2 or 3 more of those. This is one of my favorite ways to start a practice because it feels really grounding and also good for my digestive, eliminative well-being. So feet back onto the floor. And then slip your hands around the backs of your thighs as you lift your feet up again and extend your legs straight up towards the ceiling. Let's alternate between bending your legs and straightening them. Legs bent and the thigh bones close to your ribs again. Straight legs, straightening as much as you can behind your knees. The breathing pattern, which makes this easy for me, is exhaling, lowering the legs, inhaling, straightening. The next time that your legs are straight up, Then separate your feet and have a look at them. And then do a movement which is kind of windscreen wipers. So feet to the right, feet to the left. It's a movement through my foot bones and especially through the front of my ankles. Gentle movement. And then pause and have another look at your feet and adjust your feet so they're parallel with the ceiling. So as though you were having to stand on them, there's your foot pads and your heels. Let's do some stretch your toes up towards the ceiling. Draw your toes down towards your knees. Officially called plantiflexion, dorsiflexion. Maybe you sense and feel, as I do, the stretch at the front of the leg, the stretch at the back of the leg alternating. And let's do one more movement. Rotate your feet in, circling movement. Big toes come close together and then pull away. And then let's go the other way. So we're doing a beautiful movement for our feet, our toes, our ankles. We'll do a few more of these as we go along. And then take a break and 2 feet on the floor. I have my yoga strap next to me. I'm just going to use it kind of for an awareness exercise. So grab your yoga belt, bring just your right knee towards your chest, and hook the belt in between your big toe and your second toe, and then extend your leg up towards the ceiling. Bring your foot parallel with the ceiling again, and then push up against that belt. So you're pulling down gently on the belt and then pushing up, and especially at the base of the big toe. I'm a little stiff in my feet and in my toes, so it's a really good stretch for my big toe. And then let's try the same movement on the other side. Left foot, big toe. The belt's in that space between the first and second toes and stretching up. And if I work this really strongly, my toes are all in a parallel line. I can feel that as a stretch for my inner leg, all along the inside of my leg. Good. And let's let go of that for some variations of the bridge pose. Now, I don't know whether it's going to show up on the audio on this recording, but we seem to have a summertime visitor, which is the Coel bird. He's quiet now, but you might hear him again. They don't give up, those birds, those summertime birds. So for the bridge pose, leave your arms by your side and then very gently begin to lift your pelvis up, peeling up along your spine towards the upper spine, and then replacing your spine onto the floor slowly until you come down onto your sacrum and your buttocks. Let's go again, and as you lift up, move your front of your thighs towards your knees. Get that extra stretch at the front thigh, and lowering down again. Pelvis lifts, and the middle spine and upper spine peeling away from the floor, And feel as you stretch the front thigh that the back of the thigh hamstrings drawing in towards the buttock crease and then lower down. And let's add a little more flavor to this by bringing the arms overhead as you lift up, and the thighs move away from you and your arms move in the opposite direction. Keep the arms stretched overhead and lower back down. And let's do 2 more bridges like that, where your arms stay overhead and they give you a cross stretch. So your knees moving away, especially when you're in the raised position of the bridge. All right, and last one, as you bring your pelvis to the floor, bring your arms back alongside your body. Separate your feet, and then bring your arms out wide from your shoulders. Let your knees drop to the right. Bring them up. Let your knees drop to the left. So you're not investing a lot of energy in this. It's just a gentle rotation side to side. Good to allow your neck to loll around one side, head to the other. And then the next time that you go to the right side, extend your left arm overhead and just roll towards that right shoulder. Give yourself a really long and lovely stretch along the left side of your body. Change sides, knees to the left and right arm overhead. Good. And that was so nice. Let's do it all over again. One side and then the other. And the next time that you roll on to the left and towards your left shoulder, let's keep rolling to the left and then come into all fours position onto your mat. So we did some very lovely work for our feet, our toes, our ankles, and so forth. So now that you've positioned your hands, have a look at your fingers and then add a little more pressure onto your finger pads. So as you press down and press the backs of your knuckles, then press your thumbs as well. So it feels like you're strengthening your fingers and your hands. See if you can keep that strong pressure and then swing your feet together and gradually lower your hips back towards your heels, but only go halfway. Come forward again, lead with your breastbone and look out in front of your mat. And then lower your buttocks, that halfway position where it has you rounding your lower back. And coming forward and leading with the heart. And then this time, if you like, lower very close to your heels or all the way to your heels. And feel this cross stretch with your arms still straight forward and your elbows straight. Hips are back, but arms are stretching forward. Beautiful. And then let's do a strengthening movement. So with your knees apart slightly, press on the finger pads, press on the backs of your knuckles, and then lift your right knee into your chest, duck your head towards your knee, and then extend the right leg behind you. Be very careful that you're not lifting your right hip so the leg stays level with your um, sacrum, and draw the knee in and extend the leg out. Alternate between rounding your back and allowing the back to dip a little bit, especially in the upper part of your back. All right, and then this last one, bring the right knee to the floor. And let's consolidate and drop the elbows and turn your hands in reverse up towards the ceiling. Open all of your fingers and stretch them to the tips and open the thumbs out to the side. Stretch as much as you can. And then let's go into the second side and back onto all fours. Press your fingers. Lift your left knee off the floor. Bring it close to your chest and extend the leg away. We're not trying to lift the leg high, but do as much as you can to extend the leg straight at the knee. And alternating with the breath, exhale, come in with the knee. Inhale, extend it away. Good. Do one more of those. And then replacing your knee to the floor. Pause there. Bring your knees all the way together. And this time when you extend the right leg behind you, lift off your left hand and extend the left arm straight out. See if you can go between those two movements that you were doing with your knee, with your elbow too, and draw the elbow in and the knee in and then extend out. I'm finding it quite challenging to talk and do the movement, but that's all right. And last one, and right knee to the floor, left hand to the floor. Pause. Take a moment. Relax your shoulders back towards your hips. And then extend that left leg behind you and your right arm out. Work slowly and gently. Tucking in, lengthening out. Bring it in. Extend out. One more time. And we're ready to come to ground. Right hand, left knee to the floor, and take your break in child's pose. This time, drop your elbows. Bring your elbows in close to your knees. Let your shoulders roll out. Let your shoulder blades fall out. If you like, and your head's not near to the floor, rest your head on your folded hands. All right. And then coming up onto your knees, we're going to do a few movements that I've been finding very helpful for my wrists. If you get to a certain age, you've probably had a few sprains to your wrists or maybe even breaks, unfortunately. So I found that in a lying down position, so lying face down, I can bring my hands underneath my body and rest my palms, so palms rest onto the front of my thighs. So there's an opportunity to extend the wrist here just because I've weight bearing onto them. So we've got the hands resting onto the thighs, the weight of the upper thighs resting against the wrist, extending them. And if you could now bring your elbows in as well, close to your body or maybe even a little bit underneath your body. Bring your legs close together. And we'll do a Shalabhasana movement where we're going to lift the legs, adding a little bit more pressure onto that wrist area, extending the wrist. Good. And a little back bend. And then releasing your legs to the floor. Want us to turn over now and lie on your back. And in careful consideration of your wrists again, lying on your back, your legs bent, your feet on the floor. Bring the back of your hand onto your underneath of your body where your sacrum is. Lift up your hips and then rest your sacrum onto your right wrist or on the right side. And then if you can, and if you want to do this, you could bring your wrist a little higher up your spine and closer to your shoulder blades. This is a movement that we do with one arm in Gomukhasana arms, in one of the yoga poses or cow's head pose. So you could go up your spine a little bit like that. And then lift your hips and release the right hand to the side. Just feel it for a moment. And then let's go left hand and slip your left hand underneath your sacrum. My palm is down, and it's the back of the hand that makes contact with the sacrum. And all it is a little body weight onto your wrist. And you could lift up again and travel up your spine slightly. The higher that you bring your hand on your back and towards your shoulder blades, the more internal rotation you get through that shoulder, that left shoulder. So don't do anything that is causing you discomfort, and certainly not pain. Okay, so we've done these nice movements for our wrist. I hope they've been nice for you. And then let's go back and test what we've done in downward facing dog pose. So set yourself up first in the kneeling position. Have a look at your wrists and see if as you press your fingers into the mat strongly, you can bring back a little bit of that extension of your wrists as though you're lifting them up towards the ceiling. And then tuck your toes under and lift your knees, your hips in this very familiar pose. Adjust your feet so each foot is behind its respective hands. That brings me to a wider stance than when I started. And then from here, bend your knees a fraction and give yourself a good old shoulder stretch, starting from the wrist, elbows, through the shoulders, through the shoulder blades. And then as you lower your heels, we'll come to ground again, knees to the floor, and buttocks back towards your heels. Child's pose. One more dog pose to seal in the work that we did to prepare for this. And press the finger pads again, press the backs of the knuckles, ease up in straightening your legs. And this time we're going to keep the legs straight or straightish and lower the heels towards the floor. Tilt your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then take a little walk in towards your hands. Separate your feet, and then just hang loosely from your hip fold. Arms are relaxed, elbows relaxed. Keeping your knees bent, inhale and come all the way up. Your head coming up last. Very good. So turn and face towards the camera and the long end of your mat. And let's do a little work for your arms and your shoulders. Take your arms out wide to the side We're standing in Tadasana basically, and grounded through the feet, the legs firm. As you extend your arms out wide, now turn your palms up towards the ceiling. That rotation is for your wrists, your elbows, your upper arms into your shoulder joint. If you can, lift your little fingers higher than your thumbs, and then give your arms a rest and lower down by the side. Bring the arms up even with your shoulders again. And this time when you turn your arms out and your palms facing the ceiling, turn a little bit more the top arm in the shoulder joint, and then add a little back bend to just your upper part of your back. You might even tilt your chin up, raise your gaze up, and then go the other way and round your back. Let your head come slightly forward and alternate between those two. Palms up and a little back bend for your back. Bring your chin down slightly, turn your hands down, round your upper back. We're doing this really nice and connected movement with the breath, inhaling to exhaling. Probably strengthening your arms. And this time when you turn your palms down, lower your arms down and give your hands and your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders a good shake out. Let's keep working with arms and shoulders and upper body in this gentle fashion, slow fashion. Interlock your hands and wriggle your fingers until they stay connected at the base of the fingers. Turn your hands inside out for the arm extension and push away until your elbows are straightening. And inhale your arms up. Maybe without bending in your lower back, you can bring the back bend form into your upper back. And then lower your hands just to chest height. Change that interlock. Don't let the fingers slip away. Keep them locked in. Elbows in. Arms up. Good. When your arms are fully raised, you might think of lengthening through your armpits. That's a good adjustment. And bringing the thumbs a little higher than the little fingers. And then releasing with a shake out of your fingers and wrists and arms. Beautiful. And then let's do that Gomukhasana movement. I'm going to keep a belt handy because I know that on one side I'm stiffer for this particular movement. So I've got my strap there. Let's start with right arm up and fold that right arm back. If you hold with your left hand, just that movement is supportive. That's all that is there. We're not pulling or jerking or anything like that. And your palm rests on your upper part of your back. Let's bring the left arm in. Roll your shoulder forward so that rounding movement for your back. Bring your hand all the way onto your back. And it seems like for almost everybody, I can't think of any exceptions, one side is stiffer than the other. So this happens to be where I can grab my hands together. And that's what I'm going to do. So left elbow down, right elbow up, and keep the ribs relaxed. So we think ribs towards your hips, not flared. And then release. And let's do that lengthening of the arms out to the side, palms up. So we can have a fresh start for the second side. And left arm up, reach it back, hold it in for a moment, lengthen that left armpit, and then on this side, I know for a fact I'm going to need to use my belt. And something I neglected to mention on the first side is, especially when you're using the strap or you're trying to connect your hands but not quite, keep your wrist flat against your back. So instead of rotating it in or out, keep it flat on your back, and then see how you go to move your hands closer together. And left elbow up and right elbow down. And probably that's enough of that for the moment. Release. And we'll do one more of these movements. So they're what prepares us for some other yoga poses, which we may get to today. But we're not overworking anything. So reverse namaste. When we bring our arms behind our body, we're aiming to bring the hands into prayer position, but behind us. So I have a very stiff left wrist that doesn't take to this too easily. But if I'm patient and start by bringing my my middle fingers together, and then add a couple more fingers along the way, and maybe even my thumb, I might get there. But if for you something was broken, something was sprained along the way, just hold your elbows, and that's a good enough movement. So here we are in reverse namaste, and notice the front ribs again. Soften the diaphragm ribs down towards your abdomen. Now we're going to let go of all that and happily extend the arms out sideways and palms up. Good. Keep lengthening out. Pull your tricep muscles, the underneath of your upper arms, into the bone. Beautiful. And then let it all go. Okay, very nice. Let's see about the integrating of these movements with standing poses. So let's try a few of those. Tadasana, the basic pose, and standing on your own 2 feet. Allow your arms to lengthen along the side of the body. Then soften behind your knees. That little bit of softness there might be reflected. Elbows soften too, shoulders. So upright but not uptight. And then from here, let's step out for a really simple standing pose. Warrior 2 pose, Virabhadrasana 2. Turn your feet to the right. And from here, let's do that movement of extending the arms out straight. Turn your palms up towards the ceiling and turn your arms out in the shoulder joint as much as you can. And keep the upper arms turning out and turn the palms down to the floor and the forearms. So you've got a double spiral. Then bend your right leg to approximate a square behind the knee, and then look over to the right side. Let's get a nice groin stretch through that right leg. Move the right knee back towards the little toe side of the foot. The right thigh is turning out, the left thigh is turning in, and then lift the tailbone. Look along the long line of your right arm to the right. Breathing quietly. And then straight right leg, turn that foot to the center, turn your feet all the way to the left. And if to keep the practice less energetic or cooler, you need to rest the arms in between, have your hands onto your hips. Then take the knee bend. Can you connect with the feeling of rolling your upper arms out, your lower arms in? Take your left knee back and point it towards the little toe, left foot. Lift the tailbone. Feel your chest is high, it's lifted. And then looking straight forward and straight left leg, feet to the center, and gently step back to center. All right. And then just to keep ourselves cool, let's do resting Uttanasana. Fold your arms overhead, hold your elbows, and allow yourself to come into forward fold from the hip fold. So bend that's safe for your lower back. Slight flexion through your knees. You could let your hands rest in the crease of your elbows and feel the weight, like you had two little leaden weights under your elbows, drawing nearer to the floor, nearer to your legs. Release your neck. And then drop your arms and inhale and roll all the way up to standing. All right. And the next pose I have in mind is Prasarita Padottanasana, or wide leg forward fold. And let's step out for that. Bring your hands onto your hips and pivot on your heel. Turn your right foot in a little bit more. Turn your left foot in a little bit more. Lift and open your stretch and stretch your toes, big toe to little toe, and then your toes feel long, extended onto the floor and supportive. Then we're going to do some of those arm and shoulder movements again. So you might need your belt, I don't know, for Gomukhasana arms. And right arm up, stretch it back, left arm out, bring it back. Hopefully there's more ease in doing this for the second round. Then let's come forward, and only a third of the way down is fine. Instead of dropping the trunk down, actually lift up your breastplate, look out along the floor in front of you, and lean out in that direction. Good. Inhale and come up. And give your arms an outward stretch. And left arm up, reach it back. Bring that right arm in. Take up your strap, or maybe you're a little bit close. I'm so close. And come partially down towards the floor. Create a rebound of energy up through the legs and up through the trunk, and lift your heart center. Bring it forward. Stretch it out. And then anchor your legs. Inhale and come up. And all the way up. And arms wide. Extend. Relax your arms by your side. We're going to stay here, but by all means, if you need to rest your legs, just step in for the moment. The next movement is reverse namaste, reverse prayer position, hands onto your back, or holding your elbows. So let's see which one of those works along with the forward bend. Good. Come partially down again, no more than a third or halfway. And then shift your weight, if possible, here to your forefoot, to the base of the toes. Lengthen, project your head forward, lengthen your chin forward, and inhale and come up. And arms out to the side. And we have one more variation, which is the simplest one. So let's take as much as we can a full forward bend. Arms out to the side until you're down, and then reach out and hold the calf muscle on the outside, the outer ankles. If you're supple enough, then bring your fingers underneath the outer arch of your foot. In this last part, you have rounded your back, but that's one of the potentials of movement. So we're still using our strong feet and firm ankles and drawing up through the legs, drawing up through the navel center. Good. And then flex your knees, bring your hands onto your hips, press firmly through the outlines of your feet, come all the way up to standing, and step right into center. Beautiful. I have a little exercise that I alluded to earlier, and we need to use our yoga belt. I also have kind of funny little, very un-yogic props, which are two small pieces of wood. They come from a children's game set. I think it's called Jenga. And what I'm going to do is practice a little footwork, mainly for my toes, to keep them flexible, and leave your belt onto the floor, because you're going to have to pick it up with your toes. So I've got my little wooden blocks, which are very hard to pick up. And sometimes I just give up because they're not cooperating. But when I've taught this in there, I got it. Oh, there I dropped it. So see how you go. Use just your toes to pick your belt up. And even if it's not successful, entirely successful, you will have gotten quite a lot of flexibility work with your toes. Aha! So this might reveal that you're more flexible in one set than the other. So I'm very pleased with myself, and I'm going to stop there. I've got it happening on both sets of toes. So I recommend that as an exercise. Why? Because your toes are part of your balancing mechanism, and we want them to be supple and strong. And let's do tree pose, Vrishkasana. And I'm going to do this with a side-on position to the wall, just to make sure that my balance is good. So I've got my left side facing the wall, and for tree pose, and now I am going to use my toes and my foot strongly to balance on. Balancing on my right leg, my right hip is facing the wall, and then bring up your left leg as high as you can. So bending your left leg and drawing the knee towards your chest. If I've gotten my rights and my lefts, then bear with me. Um, and once you've got that flexion, bring your left foot into your right thigh. And hold your ankle if it doesn't um, stay there because your fabric of your tights is um, too loose or too stretchy. And then slippery, that's what I meant. And then once you've got your balance, if you get your balance, then compact your hips. Squeeze your hips into center and bring that outer hip into the body. And then if you are in good balance, which I'm not at the moment, then bring your hands into prayer position in front of your chest in Namaste. And finally release for the second side. So I'm on my left leg as my weight-bearing leg, and we'll start by just flexing the knee, bringing the knee towards you, hold it in, lift it high. When you've done that, then placing right foot, left thigh, and either holding your foot there or hands in front of your chest in prayer position, or even arms overhead. Squeeze the hips into center and draw the outer hip away from the wall. Press your inner thigh against your foot back against your thigh. And then release. So we've done that pose as an introduction to big toe pose. And I'm going to take a chair to balance in this one. So it's one-legged balancing with a raised leg. And I've worked this out so that for safety, to avoid falling, I'm going to have the wall behind me. And the chair on the outside, and I'm facing the chair. So let's say your left leg is your weight-bearing leg this time, and we bend up the right knee. Now I'm going to aim for the top of the chair because I know that I've done this and I can do that. But you could also have a bolster on the seat of the chair and bring your leg to a lower position and just resting onto the bolster. When the leg is lifted, so the lifted leg is probably hitching the hip up. So if you've hitched the right hip, drop the right hip. So that the hips are both level and in one plane. And then let's bring ourselves out of that first side. And 2 feet on the ground, pause. And now we're going to bend up the left leg. Right foot fully supportive. Feel your toes and your heel of your right foot. And then bring the left leg up onto your support. Steady balance. Now you had to probably lift up the hip when you lifted the leg. So let's drop that left hip. And steady balance on the right leg. Move the right thigh bone back into the hamstrings. And then release from your pose and left foot to the floor. And we're going to repeat that. And right leg up. So that lifting of the leg can be quite awkward. So we want to come back to a calm and steady presence. The right hip drops. And when you can gather your energy in that way, then let's bring your hands forward along the right leg. Rest your hands onto your right shin or your right ankle. Come forward a little bit. And you're aiming for a forward bending movement. Right, and releasing and bringing the knee towards you and towards the floor in a controlled movement. And then left leg up. And once again, once you feel steady in your balance, the hips are drawn into center and that standing leg is strong. Let's take a gentle forward bend, hands onto your leg, drawing out. Keep your face relaxed, your shoulders relaxed. And then drawing yourself back up and left foot to the floor. And it would be a shame, we've come so far along the way here, if we didn't introduce the sideways version of this. So just moved my chair out a little farther away from the wall. The wall's still there for support if I need it. And I'm going to bring my weight onto my left leg, my balancing leg, hitch up my right knee towards my chest, and bring my right leg out at a right angle. So now I'm right side facing the chair, right leg onto the chair, and let's merely drop the right arm onto the right leg, palm upwards, and start to do this lean out towards the right. It's not a true right angle because we want to keep the sacrum straight. So the left side has come a little forward. Even here you can think of lifting the tailbone and finally bring the left arm overhead. All right, and then release. Steady balance as you lower the leg. Flex the knee, right foot to the floor. I'm going to turn my back to you now and steady left side facing the chair. Balance on your right foot, raise your left knee, and bring your left foot onto its support. So approximating a right angle on the left side. Left arm, left leg. Good. Allow the right hip to come a little forward, and then as we move towards the side bending movement on the left side, let's add the right arm and extend the right arm overhead. Beautiful. And as the arm comes up and steady balance on your standing leg, start to flex your left knee and left foot to the floor. And we've done it. And let's take a kneeling position onto your mat. I tend to use double mats so that my kneeling position is very comfortable, but you could also have a blanket underneath your knees. So let's kneel in Virasana. Take support underneath your buttocks, so your buttocks can be elevated onto a bolster, or sit on your heels. Or if you want to maximize the thigh stretch, then you can sit between your heels. And that's a very good ankle stretch for me. Draw your buttock flesh out a little bit. Come onto the front of your sitting bones. And then let's do the arm and shoulder movements, and bring your left arm up. Reach it back. Rest your hand onto your upper part of your back. We've done the preparation before, so we might leave it at that and see how we go to bring the right arm back behind you. And close the gap between the fingers to whatever degree you can. And then soften the diaphragm ribs so they rest down and into the abdomen at the same time as you lift and open your chest. Good. Let that go. Release your hands to your thighs. Pause for a moment. Consolidate. And right arm up. Reach it up and then back. Use your belt between your hands if you know that you need it or that it will be helpful for you. And bringing the hands closer together. Now, I didn't mention on the first side, but make sure that your wrist is flat against your back. That's your lower wrist pressing flat against your back, not rotated. Good. And then the chest is high and lifted, but the ribs are soft into the lower body. Good. And then let that go. And I think we've done our dash with that movement. Extend your legs out. And let's finish with a seated twist, and a simple one at that. So have a cross-legged position. Do sit on a platform, a support if you need to. I'm going to sit on a folded blanket. Good. And then for our finishing twist, bring your left hand onto your right knee. Bring your right hand behind you. And because the finish of the class is more reflective and more meditative, then instead of pulling with your left hand, just let it rest there and allow the breath to help you rotate. As you go along, you may want to move your back hand around a little bit more. But keep the arms and the shoulders very relaxed for this. And just feel your breath. And then back to center. Change the way you crossed your legs. And turning to the left, right hand, left knee. Walk your back hand around as far as it'll go. And then just the sensations of breathing. Good. And then let it go. Lift the outside of your knees and extend your legs forward. And now find your way into legs up the wall or legs on the chair, which of those you prefer. For our final pose, get an eye covering. It really does help to relax your eyes very effectively. Once you've placed yourself in the supportive position with the legs straight up on the wall or your lower legs resting on the chair, then find a way to align your body. It really will help if your body's not torqued to one side or the other. So from the center line of your body, it runs through the jugular notch, your chin, to the crown of your head, all in one line. And then feel how the back of the body is supported, sacrum, spinal column, shoulders and shoulder blades, back of your head. And then adopt a mood of yielding. And other ways we have to describe that are surrendering, letting go, softening. And this happens by degrees. So we might assume that there's still a little bit more letting go to do. Check your facial features, especially your eyes. Eyelids light over your eyes. The gaze is downwards.
If you haven't done it from the beginning and you find it comforting, you might want to bend your elbows and bring your hands to rest onto your torso, onto your belly or onto your heart center. And begin to allow your breath to build up a little bit more momentum, slightly deeper inhalation and exhalation, really in anticipation of moving in just a moment, but not any rush whatsoever. And slowly lowering your legs. And finally rolling over to the side. To begin to come up. And we can finish the session that we've done, joining hands in front of the center of our chest. Take a moment, lift your elbows a little bit. Incline your head towards your hands, towards your heart. Maybe you can elevate the heart a little bit more. And do a check-in here at the finish of our sequence of yoga. And feel into your own heart center the inherent goodness there, kindness. And let's take this sign of respect that we offer ourselves and share it with the wider world, with each other. Namaste. Thank you.